Ago Tevachra Boisai. We was Mordechai live from a hotel room in Connecticut. Rabbi Isai, we're holding by a brand new mission Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis. Try to do a quicker shir than usual. Lechol kechatzi zayis ulahakte kechatzi zayis. Rabbi Isai, we're talking about pigul. We're talking about a person who, as he's doing the kmitza, he has a thought that could ruin, or not ruin in some cases, this mincha. His thought, let's talk about this. This is the large amount of flour. This is what's left over. After the kohen puts his hand in, takes 3 fingers worth, puts it in a kli. Let's say he puts it right over here. Small amount of flour. This goes on the mizbeach. This over here, see the 2 amounts? The small amount is the kmitza, goes on the mizbeach. The larger amount is the shirayim. If I had a nice pen, I couldn't find one. Goes up. Let's write shirayim over here. Nice big letters. So the guy says, I'm going to take, if he said I'm going to take a full kazayis of this and eat it, make a bread out of it, make a donut out of it, tomorrow, that's full-fledged pigul, you ruined the mincha. Why? Because he said tomorrow. You're only allowed to eat it today. And it's the full amount, the full kazayis. And if he says, I'm going to take this, a full kazayis of this, and put this, where do I put this? On the mizbeach. I'm not going to eat it. It's not for human consumption. This goes on the mizbeach. It's a certain eating of the mizbeach. The mizbeach eats it. It consumes it. There's an achila of the mizbeach and there's an achila of adam. What happens if he says, I'm going to take a half a kazayis of what's supposed to go on the mizbeach, not a full kazayis, a half a kazayis, and a half a kazayis of what I'm supposed to be eating a donut. I'm going to make a half a donut. Together have a whole kazayis, kosher. Why is it kosher? You're right, I have a total of 1 kazayis, but since there are 2 types of eating, one is a human consumption and it's only a half a shear, it's a half a kazayis. The other one is a mizbeach consumption, it's a half a shear, it's a half a kazayis. They don't combine together, they're not mitzdarif. It says in the Mishnah, chatzi zayis lechol, chatzi zayis la'aktiv. Half a kazayis to eat and half a kazayis to put on the mizbeach. You could infer and be medayik that this doesn't work, but what does work? If it's a half a zayis of shirayim and a half a zayis of kmitza to eat, what if I said, instead of saying I'm going to put half a kazayis on the mizbeach of this kmitza, I'm actually going to use it for my donut. I'm going to consume it physically like a human being consumes. Now, it's not really meant for human consumption, it's meant for mizbeach consumption. But I'm going to use that half a kazayis from the kmitza and combine it with the half a kazayis of the shirayim, and together I have a whole kazayis. And l'chayra, it's mashma from the Mishnah that would be a good pigul. It's only not a pigul the top 2, but the bottom 2 you could infer that it is pigul. Otherwise, the Mishnah would have said it. Abai is going to say what you're saying is beautiful. It's a great inference, and it's a good diuk. But let's be medayik something else. So let's see inside. But if I'm going to eat the kmitza as food, then it would combine to make a full shear and make pigul. As the Gemara Vaktoni Reisha lechol dov shedarki lechol ulakti dov shedarki lahaktir dov shedarki lecholin shedarki lecholoi. Mashma that it's not mitzdarif if you look at the Reisha. Says Gemara, you're right. We have a little bit of a machlokes. Mantana, who's our Tana that says that to take a chatzi zayis of something that's supposed to go on the mizbeach and actually eat it as a donut, it would combine with another half a kazayis that you're allowed to eat, the shirayim, and make it a full kazayis to make it pigul. Who's that? That's the Tana, Rebbe Eliezer. It doesn't matter if it's meant for mizbeach consumption, a human being can consume it. It doesn't matter if it's a human being consumption or mizbeach can consume it. You could combine the 2. This Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, that's what we're talking about, a kmitza that's not the derech to eat, or it's, to take the shirayim and put it on the mizbeach is also not something that is that's done, but you did it. It's mitzdaref. Michael Mashmalon. And what is the chiddush over here? We could see this mefurish. Now what? If a person says, I'm going to do pigul of mechutz l'zman, I'm sorry, mechutz l'machar, and a kazai is mechutz l'zman, l'machar is mechutz l'zman, or reverse. A kazai is, he starts off saying, I'm going to do one kazai is, I'm going to eat it tomorrow, which is chutz l'zman. Ukazai is mechutz, and I'm going to do chutz l'mkoima also. And then it says weiter, kechatzi zayis b'chutz ukechatzi zayis l'machar. Kechatzi zayis l'machar, kechatzi zayis b'chutz. You're going to take in half, 2 halves of a kazayis. 1 half of a kazayis is chutz l'zman. 1 half is chutz l'mkoima. You combine the two. It doesn't matter how you started off, which one started first. Pasal ve'mekars. So we already have this halacha that it's mistarev. Hosulam ali. Why do I need it twice? If I'm going to tell you that I'm taking something that's edible and something that's not the way to eat it, in other words, it fits on the mizbeach, but I put it together, I would say that it's mitzaref. That I can't say. Why? Because I already learned in the Reisha that it's not mitzaref. Reisha Shabbos, no, it's not mitzaref. Now we skip these 2 lines. If I'm going to tell you that something that's like our Mishnah, something that's for human consumption, something that's for mizbeach consumption, put together are not mitzaref. The Reisha Shabbos, then I keep him dying from the Reisha. The what? The hashto. If I want to take 2 things to eat a half a kazayis and a half a kazayis of something that's edible and something that's not edible, I'm just mitzaref. They don't combine. So certainly, if it's something that's to eat and something that I want to put it on the mizbeach, they shouldn't combine. If I want to eat the 2 of them, consume it, but one is edible and one is not edible, they don't combine. So certainly, if I don't want to consume it, I just want to, half of it I want to consume and the other half I want to put in mizbeach, well, how could it combine? The Gemara says, no, there's more of a svara to say that does combine. Why? In I do need that case. If you do something unnatural, in other words, I'm taking something like this bag. This is kmitza that belongs in this be'ach, and I said I'm going to eat it. That's not a natural thing. That's against halacha. So okay, no, that's why it's not mitzvah. That's why it doesn't make sense that it combined. But when I did the right thing, this I said half of kazais from here, which is edible, I'm going to eat. And half is ice from here, which goes on this back. I said I'm going to put on this back. So I'm doing the right thing. Maybe it should combine. That it's not mitzaref. Hadrun aloch kol menachos. Hadrun aloch kol menachos. Hadrun aloch kol menachos. Hakoyim is mincha, says the first Mishnah of the second parak. Hakoyim is mincha lechel shiyorel or lahaktir kumtza l'machar. This is a classic case of pigul. He does kmitza. And he says, I'm going to eat the leftovers tomorrow. Or he says, I'm going to take the kmitza and I'm going to put it on the mizbeach tomorrow. It's 2 types of consumptions of eating. Everybody agrees that that's pigul. You ruined it. It's actually, you get chorus for it. Now the question that the Gemara is going to ask is, why would I say that Rabbi Yossi doesn't say that? Because Rabbi Yossi continues and he says, on this he does argue. As we're going to see, there's 2 parts that go onto the mizbeach. They have to burn. Part number 1 is this baggie. Part number 2 is in the Amazon bag. The frankincense must go on the mizbeach. As we're going to see, they're both very essential to go on the mizbeach, and they both comprise 50% of what goes on the mizbeach. So if a person has in mind that he's going to burn the levina, the frankincense, tomorrow, that's also pigul. Just like when he thinks that he's going to burn this flour tomorrow. We have a machloikis. Chacham say, listen, levina is just like the flour. What's the difference? And if you have a thought about the levina, that you're going to eat it, or you're going to the mizbeach is going to consume it, not that you're going to eat it, but the mizbeach is going to consume it tomorrow, which is not the right time. It's after the allotted time. The allotted time is up to today. You have to put it on the mizbeach, not tomorrow. Say Chacham, if you think that, and then you go ahead and you eat the mincha, chayiv kares. And Rabbi Yossi says, no. That applies to only to the flour, but not to the levina. You're right. If you think that, you're going to ruin the carbon, but you're not going to get kares for it. Kares, the Hashem chops down a person's life short, that's reserved only for the flour. And they try to prove it to him. You're probably thinking, Rabbi Yossi, that the levina is separate of the flour. But guess what? The levina is very similar to the imurim, to the body parts that we put onto the mizbeach, the kidneys, the skirt steak, the fats. And yet, if you think in your mind, as you're doing shechita, you're going to put those parts, the imurim. We should have put the picture of imurim here. You thought to yourself that you're going to put those parts onto the mizbeach tomorrow. That's real pigul. You chayiv kares for that. So how come levina is different? Omar answer, Rabbi Yossi answers very nicely. Look, they all come from the same animal. The kidneys, where do they come from? They come from a different. They come from this animal. But when you're referring to the frankincense, that comes in a different bag. That comes from Amazon, from a different place. Says the Gemara, what is the point of the beginning of the Mishnah? We all know what pigul is already. Pigul is when a person has a thought that he's going to consume this part of the mincha tomorrow. So what's the point of you telling me, oh, and Rabbi Yossi also agrees to it? There's no one in the world that disagrees with that. Says the Gemara, in the second part of the Mishnah it says, but if you thought about putting the frankincense onto the mizbeach tomorrow, there's no kares, says Rabbi Yossi. He argues with the Chacham, there is no kares. Now the same time, Rabbi Yossi mishum dekosova im mefaglim b'chatzi matir. Oh, now we're gonna have a beautiful piece. It's not a complicated piece at all. A very simple piece. Think about it. When can the kohen benefit from this flour and eat this flour, make donuts out of this? When? Only when this kmitza goes onto the mizbeach. When this goes onto the fire, that moment, this becomes mutter to eat. So this becomes a matir. It allows you, this flour allows you to eat this. But wait a minute, there's one more thing that it must go on the mizbeach. It's called levina. You see this bag that I just got from Amazon? This bag right over here in my hand, full of these beautiful crystal yellow pieces of levina. This also must go onto the mizbeach. So these two, you see these two bags? They must go on the mizbeach. If I only put one bag, so I got 50% of the matter. I put another bag, I got the 100% of the matter. Each one is 50%. Oh. So says, I would think the Rabbi Yossi holds that I cannot do pigul with only half. The flour represents 50% of what allows me to eat the shirayim. It's a half of the pigul. It's a half of the matter. Half of the matter. So maybe you cannot do pigul on a half, on 50%. Komash Malon, you could do pigul 100%. If you think while you're doing the flour, you think to yourself, I am going to eat this, I'm going to put this flour onto mizbeach tomorrow. That's enough to be mefagel, be chayav kares. And I would think that applies even in the case of flour. In the Reisha, I do kmitza and I'm thinking to myself that I'm going to put this on the mizbeach tomorrow. I would think, but putting this on the mizbeach tomorrow is only 50% of the matter, so it shouldn't be pigul. No, it is pigul. He says, no, it's a full pigul for everything. If a person says, Rabbi Yossi, we have a machlokes. He sees this bag of levina I'm holding in my hand from Amazon. Rabbi Yossi said, Ein mater mefagel es mater. Listen to this. When I am holding this, I'm doing kmitza, I don't have the right to think about the levina going on tomorrow. And when I'm doing levina, I don't have the right to think about my flour. One has nothing to do with the other. I cannot have bad thoughts about another thing. Mao the same time the Rabbi Yossi b'Levana mishum delav mina the minchoi. Maybe the pshat is when you have a certain amount of flour and a certain amount of frankincense, levina. So one can't be mefagel the other because they're different. Oh, here it is. When you have 2 spoonfuls of frankincense, like on the shulchan, the min they're the same min. I would say that perhaps they should be mefagel. Kamash malon that they're not mefagel even if it's the same min. So the Sfasema says over here, I think it's his yard side. I didn't have a chance to check. Somebody told me yesterday that it's his yard side. I don't know. So that's what he said. It's right around his yard side. I know it's right around here. But I thought it was a very nice chap that he says. Why would I think that the 2 different bezichim, the 2 spoonfuls of frankincense that we have with the lechem upon him, why would I think that one has the ability to if it's not in the same kli, as we're going to see soon, it has to be one kli. But I'm saying it over here because now this is where we said it. He has a chap that maybe it's considered one vessel. Why would 2 spoons be one? Because they're both sitting on one shulchan. The shulchan grabs them and makes them one, if I understood him correctly. Zog the Gemara. Are you able to tell me? Are you able to look me in the eye and tell me that Rabbi Yossi is not talking about because it's one item versus 2? Baktani Seifa. Amrullah. Mashinsa min hazevach. In the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, the Chacham tell Rabbi Yossi, why is levina and flour different than a skirt steak and the rest of an animal? So what does he answer them? What do you mean? The skirt steak and the kidneys come from that same animal. But levina, frankincense, is not the same item as the flour. So you see that he is talking about it being 1 and 2 different things. He says, no, you didn't understand. By edom and a mincha, edom be ikov mincha. He's not referring to whether it's 1 or 2 items. He's saying that one doesn't prevent the other one from happening. What does that mean? It's not like the way it works is if I want to eat the shirayim, the leftover, I have to put the kmitza on the mizbeach. As long as I don't put this on the mizbeach, I cannot eat this. So one prevents the other. But that's not the case with levina frankincense. In other words, I could put the frankincense on the mizbeach even though I didn't put the kmitza on the mizbeach, and I could put the kmitza on the mizbeach even though the frankincense is not on the mizbeach. In other words, one does not prevent the other from happening. The it's not similar to the kmitza that you can't eat the shirayim as long as the kmitza is not on the mizbeach. The because as long as I don't put the kmitza on the mizbeach, I can't eat the shirayim. I would think that the kmitza can prevent the levina, but the halach is no. Whichever one of the 2 I want to put on the mizbeach first, whether it's the frankincense first or the flour first, I can put on first. And what Rabbanan is like? So we know on Shavuos, you're supposed to bring 2 breads and 2 sheep, 2 shlamim. Each shlamim you cannot be mefagel from one to the other. In other words, if I'm shechting shlamim number 1 on the right, and I think to myself that shlamim number 2 on the left, I'm going to eat that one in 3 days from now. That's not pigel. Why? Because A has nothing to do with B. Why does A have nothing to do with B? Because they were never put together in one vessel. But when you put the 2 things together in one vessel, so you have the levina, you see the levina on the left, those little rock-looking things. I have the levina together on top of the flour, on top of the dough. So they were both in the same vessel. Then it should be as if it's one. Great. Take a look at this. Doing so, removing the levina from the large bowl and putting it on the mizbeach, that is not allowed to be done by a Yisrael. If he does it, if a Yisrael moves it from vessel A to vessel B, you have to start all over. It's possible. You can't add another amount of levina and let the kohen do it. It's too late. Once he did it, it's possible. Why? My taima. It's because this is like walking. Because walking without your feet, with your hands, is also walking. In other words, when I take the levina from right over here and I move it to right over here, I just walked. Not with my feet, with my hand. I just moved it from area A to area B. You saw? That's what he did over here as well. Not this one, this one. He's moving it from the left of the screen to the right of the screen. That's walking. I moved it closer to the mizbeach. Now it's easier and closer to get to the mizbeach. So I moved it. Now, sometimes you move something with your feet, sometimes you move it with your hand. You have to hold the shita that moving without your feet is also considered a walking. And therefore, walking is one of the four avodas. What are the four avodas? Kmitza, Kabbalah B'Kli, Hoylacha, walking to the Mizbeach, and being makter on the Mizbeach. So the Yisrael just did one of the four avodas, and that makes it possible. Omer Rav Mori Avananami Tanina, we also learned this. Zeh Klal, Kol HaKoymetz V'Noisim B'Kli V'Hamoylech V'Makter. Here are the four avodas: Kmitza, Nesina B'Kli, Hoylacha, and Aktara. So the Gemara is going to say all four right now. Kol HaKoymetz, this is the cloud. If you have a machshava of pigul while you do kmitza, v'noisim b'kli, or putting into the vessel, v'hamoylech, and doing hoylach, v'hamakter, and being makter, bishlam koymetz anu shoichet. As you can see in this chart, kmitza on the right resembles shechti. Moylech nami hanu moylech. And the third one, to bring it towards the mizbeach, no, you bring it towards the mizbeach, it's exact. Maktir, and throwing the carbon onto the fire, the mincha onto the fire, it's similar to throwing the blood onto the mizbeach. But putting the number 2 from the right, the purple, putting the mincha into a vessel, why is that similar to blood? Because you're going to say it's similar. It's not similar at all. Blood goes squirting out of the carbon's neck. All you need to do is put a vessel there, and it fills it up and the vessel fills up by itself. But over here, you physically have to take the kmitza and put it in. So it's very different. You must do this, and if you don't do this, how are you going to get it to the mizbeach? So since you have to put it in a vessel to get it in the mizbeach, so it's avodah chashuva. It's considered a significant avodah, and therefore you could be mefagel during that. So it's similar to doing kabbalah. So by the also, if you don't gather it, so you won't be able to bring it to the mizbeach. So therefore it becomes avodah chashuvi. It's an important avodah. So therefore I make it as if it's halacha. So the Gemara no, it is similar to Kabbalah. It's similar to Kabbalah Saddam. What was the question we had? But Kabbalah Saddam happens by itself. You don't have to put the blood into the vessel; it squirts out by itself. Over here, you have to put the mincha, the kmitza, into the vessel. No, at the end of the day, let's look at it differently. You have kedusha, it's a klishar. This golden vessel has inherent kedusha, and therefore what? Therefore, it's the kli that infuses kedusha into the mincha. So who cares if it happened by itself, or who cares if the blood went in by itself, or that you put it in. The bottom line is what happens afterwards. Once it's in the kli, it becomes kadosh. Rabbi Isai, have a good Tavoch, have a good Shabbos, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.